Hello, welcome to Much Ado About Something. I'm Donna, and today we're going to focus on making plant markers out of recycled plastic containers. Specifically, the best ones to make are the bleach containers, to use the bleach containers. I got a request to make this focusing on the plant markers because it's starting to be plant season. People are starting their seeds and they're starting their gardens, and this is a useful thing for that time of the year. If you watch my video on how to repurpose 8 things that you would normally throw away, this was one of the things that I included in there, was how to make these plant markers out of recycled plastic containers. The bleach container is my absolute favorite container to make these markers out of. This one's straight out of the recycling bin. I did rinse it off, but I couldn't rinse up under the label. So your container will look like this. Let me get a marker, we'll need that. I take a utility knife, and as you can see on these bleach plastic containers like this that bleach comes in, there are lines here at the top and there are lines here at the bottom. Little indentations that make it easy for you to cut the container. I just take a utility knife and go on this line and cut it on that line as close as I can. But once you make a hole, you can put your scissors in there. You have a little more control, and maybe it's a little safer to use a pair of scissors. But just cut along that line. Some people use these for funnels. If you need a funnel for something that size, that's a good container to use. It's a good recycled way to get a handy funnel if you don't have one on hand. Maybe to put some chemicals in a car or something. I've washed these well. Then I find the seam that's on the plastic container, and I go along that second mark. And you just go around the edge. You can make this as neat, or you can go as fast as you want to go. Just carefully do it so as not to hurt yourself, not to cut yourself. But you know, it's no specific science to it, just a general cutting of it off. Now you'll have a little tray like this, which I use these little trays. I repurpose them to put under plants, especially plants that that you're not decorating with or anything. You're just having. They make good drainage trays. The number one use I use these for is whenever I paint something. I always use these to lay my wet paintbrush on. And then you'll have a piece that looks like this. What we're going to do with this is just cut strips. And you can cut these as thin or as wide as you need them. If you're going to put them in a seed starter tray, maybe you would just need a little thin one. And you could just write the name of your seeds on something that's this thin. If you were going to put it on a row of vegetables, maybe you would make it a little thicker. But you just cut these to whatever size meets your needs. You can even measure them out if you want them to be exact. They don't have to be exact for the purpose that I use them for. I have used these, I have made these and used them for years to mark my plants. You can buy plant markers in the store, plastic plant markers, wherever they're lawn and garden, wherever seeds and seed supplies are sold. There you'll find plastic white plant markers. And they run around anywhere from $2 to $5. But you're going to save a little bit of money, and you're going to repurpose something that is otherwise destined to go into a recycling bin. But you're going to recycle it for yourself. You're not creating any more plastic in the landfill. You're reusing something that you would already be throwing away or recycling. And then once you get your little stack of markers, you want to go to the end of them and just cut a point. And you do this so that it'll be easy to put down into your soil. With this little point, you can just put it down in there. You can do it on all of these. You can do it on your small ones. Say you were going to plant squash seedlings. And you could write squash and the date that you planted your little seedlings in your starter pots. And then you would have a little marker to put in there. And then say you were you had a potted plant that you wanted to label. You could just use this marker. They last really good. And if you want to reuse them, you can take fingernail polish remover and just wipe off, or acetone, and just wipe off the name, and you can reuse them depending on how frugal you want to be. Now there are other materials that you can use like this. Just take the label off of, say you had a container that was like this. But one of the reasons that I'm choosy in particular about what container I use is because it's really hard to get the labels off of some containers. So that with this container, it's a nice round container, but it would take quite a while to get the label off of this container. But you could use it. You can also use something that's like this. The difference in this container, it has the lines. Or you could just take it off the top, and you could use this. The only thing about containers that are shaped different is sometimes it's hard to get as much plastic out of them as you would say a cylindrical shape like this. You know, you wouldn't have any corners. On this shape, you would, on a square or a rectangular shape, you want to have these corners that you won't be able to use. You'd have to cut around the corners, and that's okay too. That's no big deal. I mean, if this is what you have, then you can certainly make use out of this. Say, I think this was an old vinegar container, so you might not use bleach, but you might have a lot of vinegar containers on hand. And if that's the case, then you can certainly reuse your plastic vinegar containers, or really any container that's that you're able to cut out the markers with, and you're able to use a marker to label your plants. And of course, this makes a one of those little trays too, and it's just a square shape. And then on the square shaped one, I would probably start in the corner because you're not going to be able to use that concave corner. This one actually, this plastic's a little thicker, so it may even make a heavy duty or marker for whatever you might need it for. Let's see, right here we would come to a corner. I mean, you might use that too. That would, I have cut these and packaged them and give them in gardener's baskets. I was able to teach the Ladies Fellowship's Gardening Club how to do these. And so there are plenty of ladies that are using this idea and really like it. Some of the ladies were saying that they use popsicle sticks, ice cream sticks, and then some of them were saying they use wooden spoons. But the downside to that, they were saying, is that when they labeled those and put them outside, they didn't weather well. They the words faded off of them, and their spoons and sometimes their popsicle sticks would rust. So they really like this idea. I still have some out in the garden that I made last year, and I even have some that I made 2 years ago that are still out there in the garden with their little labels on them, and they're marking plants that I planted several years ago. So they really hold up. And the thing about these is maybe you could make a note on here. It would be big enough. Say this was yellow crookneck squash. You would be able to get all of that on this one marker. You would be able to put yellow crookneck squash. You would be able to put some details on this label because it's big enough for you to do that. Well, this is a little garden tip. I hope it helps you today. And if you liked what you saw here, you can subscribe to Much Ado About Something. Like this video and share it with your friends. Thank you for joining me today. And like always, until next time.